When you have over 3,000 guest appearances across a ton of different medias, a lot of those being podcasts, guess what? You learn quite a bit. And in fact, you may even learn enough to start your own podcasting related platform. Yep, that's who we're talking with this week. Stay tuned. Josh, thanks for being on the show today. Yeah, I mean, I just want to dive right in with PodVerified because anyone that is a host has gotten the litany of pitches that are just horrific. And one of my favorites, I always like to tell this story, is I co-host a podcast. It's me and my co-host all the time. And we get pitched all the time. I would love to be a guest on your show. We have never had a guest on our show, ever. So my usual response to them is, hey, who's been your favorite guest as of thus far? So, I mean, you guys are working to really make the experience of bringing on guests, of making sure that it's a connection better. Well, like, there's not just a gap there. There's a chasm. When was the moment where you're like, I can fill this?
Yeah, well, and it really was. It was. This is what we're talking about specifically. Just in case anyone's a little bit curious here. So, in the podcasting world. So, if you're a podcaster, you've been around for a little bit of time. I've got about 2,500 episodes of my primary podcast, The Thoughtful Entrepreneur, and then I've also worked, as a bit of a fractional chief revenue officer. But I do all of my relationship building and business development, sales development through the podcasting ecosystem because it's just such an incredible ecosystem to connect with other high-level leaders. I'll get into that later. But I want to address it. We're talking specifically when you are a host and you've been around a little bit of time, you're going to start getting hit up a lot by guests, but not just guests. It's actually more so. It's this huge group of podcast pitching services and contractors. And so back in the day, my background goes back into journalism and public relations. I've been doing media consulting since the 90s. I kind of started up in the U.S. Navy.
Not that we're dating ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting story, and I'll get into that a little bit later, just to make sure it's relevant. But, the background in podcast casting, just like traditional media, which, and again, I've been in traditional media about 3,000 times. In that world, public relations is a very relationship oriented process. Usually, if you have a PR firm, that just blasts out press releases, good luck. You're not going to get jack. It does not work today. There are a couple of strategies and that you could do, that there might be some use case, but generally if your hope is to get on great media outlets, just blasting out generic press releases, it's just not going to work. Public relations professionals know this. Now, some of them still sell those services, unfortunately, but generally they're just not going to deliver the goods like someone who takes a little bit of time, make sure that, the match is great, everyone's coached, everyone's ready. It's going to be a very successful collaboration. That's the work of a great PR professional. And that's who was historically connecting folks who wanted to be able to serve audiences on podcasts, collaborating with great hosts, and it was done with great care. And then somewhere around COVID, a lot of marketing bros got into podcast guesting, and they have they have a very different mentality, right? And that mentality usually is, let's just beat them over the head with numbers in order to get our percentages of percentages without realizing or caring that ends up causing a lot of collateral damage in the industry. Okay. And so specifically what this ended up looking like is if you're a podcaster and you're doing, any kind of, you've got any kind of history there. Today we get more than 20 pitches a day on average. And I do a show, I do a daily show. And I got to tell you, and I'm sure you know this, the quality of the pitches is just ridiculous. It's I'll be frank.
It's terrible.
And if there are podcast pitching companies looking or listening to us right now, or you know someone who's doing this, I'm just going to tell you right now, you are being insulting. Please stop doing this.
Wholeheartedly.
Hate this. And also what I need to let you know is that if you have hired one of these agencies, God bless you. You're just doing what you believe this world operates like. So, if I could just emphatically tell you, please stop spamming. It's kind of like, and again, this is the whole maxim. It's like marketers ruin everything, right? And I'll say amateur marketers. Professionals, again, know, at the end of the day, you can only squeeze so much juice out of, we've
got a target
out of the fruit, so to speak. But here's what's happening. It's kind of like what happened with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator used to be a really, really great tool. And then marketers, cheap, bad amateur marketers ruined it for everybody. Why? Because they just went cheaper, more generic, just a lot of automation, a lot of cheap labor, a lot of just very generic crap. So what ends up happening? Well, if I'm a decision maker, my time is valuable. And I'm generally the kind of person that people might want to do business with, in certain verticals. But unfortunately, I don't even look at my LinkedIn anymore because it's all crap. And I do have someone that monitors my DMs, but I said, your number one job is just to keep me from being encumbered. So the spam comes in every single day. It's the same thing with podcast guesting, and all this spam that goes out. And then clients and well-meaning guests. I don't mean to keep monologuing here, but
no,
man,
you're
you
good.
got me on my soapbox.
You're good.
We'll talk about solutions here in just a second. I promise.
It's the lessons that we need to call out. And it's funny when you mentioned the bro thing. It's the reason why, like for us as a company, I say we won't do broadcasts. We will not do broadcasts. We'll do business podcasts. We'll do stuff like that all day long. We won't do the bros.
Yeah. Well, let me share something with you. And this is really interesting too, as I've really looked at this behavior, in terms of who is it that does really well in podcast guesting. And I've seen this just consistently is that to serve audiences in media, to serve audiences, when you're collaborating and giving value and you're teaching. Okay, folks who have the heart of a teacher and are just genuine, like they're just good people. And you can tell that they don't have, like their primary motivation in being a guest is to deliver value because they know that their success is dependent among, it's relative to the value that they give. They will naturally create more success if you deliver more value. Now, marketers think about it again, a little bit different. Like what they're thinking about is I'm going to say the right terms. I'm going to say the right words, and I'm going to, use some urgency and scarcity. And I'm going to be like, on page 32 of my new book, you too can be a winner. You'll discover the three. Like you just cannot do that stuff in media. Listen, if you're doing a webinar and you're doing a marketing presentation, go for it. Do whatever you do that normally works. But that stuff does not work in podcast guesting. Those folks usually flame out really quick because they're like, well, this sucks. No one's buying my stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you're in the wrong venue, man. Read the room because if you want to do well in podcast guesting, it truly is. It's about rapport. Yes, building some curiosity. Yes, generating, and giving true value to audiences. If you can get really good at that, then I don't know why you would do any kind of other marketing because there's just so many great audiences who listen to podcasts. It's a little unique. And I've got, way more tips that I can share in how to do this well.
Is your podcast not getting the results you hoped for? Are you feeling stuck and unsure how to grow your audience or make a real impact? We get it.
Podcasting can be a challenge, but with the right strategies, it can be an incredibly powerful tool. That's why we're offering our free no-pitch podcast consultation. We'll spend 30 minutes with you identifying areas for improvement on anything from optimizing your audio or video quality to developing a content strategy that resonates with your customers. If you're ready to unleash your podcast's full potential, visit the link in our show notes to schedule your free consultation. Space is limited, so sign up today so we can help you create a podcast that truly shines.
I love the fact that you talked about the sharing, that aspect, the giving aspect of it. And that's how to be successful, because we find that, I mean, and that's another reason why we say we're not doing the broadcast, because the broadcast, they're doing it for themselves instead of doing it for their audience, and as a business, as a guest, as a host, it's all about giving. As the host, you're giving to the audience. As the guest, you're giving to the host. It's all about giving. It does come back to you, people. That's the only way. That's the only way it works. Is you have to put it out. It's 100%. In fact, I just started thinking of this. It's an investment. If you invest nothing, you're going to get back nothing. If you're willing to invest in it, you'll get it back. From the tactical side of this, I love how you called out like the PR agencies and just the fact that none of us really need more things in our inbox every day. I feel like that's a standard answer. The spray and pray method is one that, like, once again, that we've found, and there's so many things that make it so that's just an awful way to do things, because you're not adding value to anything.
No. And what a lousy way to begin a new relationship.
Yep.
Again, there are some in marketing who that's okay. Like, they're okay with, swipe right. They just swipe right on everything. And it just, it feels desperate to me. And again, my bias is, to me, it feels a little bit like, the guy that you meet at this, B&I mixer or whatever, right? And he's just slapping cards in people's hands. And he's like immediately going right for the jugular. And
we all know him.
If you need a water softener, hey, if you need, it's like, ugh. So, and I'll just share this, is that with earlier stage folks, like if you're marketing to earlier stage business owners and, you're selling to consumers, you might be able to get away with this, and it might work. Like, listen, I'm not good at this, so I'll stay in my lane. But what I can tell you is that, for higher level B2B sales with a sophisticated buyer, let me just say this. We all know what you are doing. We all know what you are doing. So you're not fooling anybody. Like, when you have great marketing copy, great. We know you have great marketing copy, and we see it objectively. And so we're able to get a little meta, and we all know when we're being sold at. So when I'm working with my clients, kind of to illustrate this, like in a sales conversation, usually what I tell my clients is, listen, your job on your first sales call is not to close the deal and pin them down and, get them to buy your product. I really take a little bit more of a, again, these are for bigger ticket B2B sales. Your job really is just to evoke, oh my gosh, now I have a friend who does what you do. If you can get, your potential partner or your potential client to that level of emotional connection with you, it's kind of game, set, match. They'll let you know if they're in market, and that's their decision, not yours. That's my philosophy on this. And I very much kind of align with the go-giver way of sales and marketing as well, as you could tell.
Oh, for 100% for sure. And I mean, that also explains why you've been a guest on the bazillion jillion shows that you have. I believe that's the correct number, right?
Last time I counted, I think this give or take a bajillion.
Okay, good. How does someone know it's the right show to get onto?
Okay. So I've got some thoughts on this, and it's a great question. Okay. And trust me, I want to make sure, Josh, that we will get to in this conversation. I absolutely need to call out the podcasting industry too.
100%.
I need to call out podcasters because there's a lot of, I don't want to say blood on their hands, but there's a lot of unforced errors. That there is some, why have we gotten to the place that we have? And I'll address that later. So don't let me forget.
No.
But you asked the question from the guesting perspective, how do I know what shows to go on. So I have a kind of a philosophy when I'm talking with my clients. And again, I've launched over 300 shows for folks. And then as well, I've facilitated thousands and thousands of guest connections. And everything I do has to be around what is the business plan or the business justification for this. So my primary goal is you have to follow the rules of engagement. You have to give, you have to serve, you have to be generous. You have to learn some basic rapport skills. You have to all this stuff, right? But primarily, again, I need to make sure that my clients are making money at podcast guesting. So how can you do that? Well, show selection is a valuable consideration. So a lot of times, and this is really interesting. Let's say that you're a marketing consultant and you're kind of new. A lot of times, this is what I see is that a newer to podcasting marketing consultant, their first inclination is to say, well, I'm a marketer, so guess what kind of shows I'm going to go on? I'm going to go on a bunch of marketing podcasts. Okay, what I call that is, or my advice is, you got to step away from the nerd table, because your customers are not there. Your peers are there, and a lot of times, Josh, reason why marketers want to go on marketing podcasts is it is on the inside. Yes, they say they want business, but in reality, what they want or what drives that, at least either consciously or unconsciously, is they want validation from their peers. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it may or may not pay the bills. So if you want to make money in podcasting, you are likely going to do much better if you can be the unique voice in other genres and other industries, right? Particularly what you want to ask is this one question is, could my ideal customer be in this audience? And if so, then that's kind of the show that I'm after, because that's who I can provide the most value to. I may not have a lot of fresh ideas for really experienced podcasters. I think there's probably a lot of nodding along, but man, I am here to serve because I also want, I need help people. I need my fellow podcasters and folks in the industry to, we got to rally. We got to rally and solve this, because if we don't solve this problem, it's just a race to the bottom. And then podcast guesting just does not work. So we kind of have to step up and do that. But yeah, so show selection. So for example, I had one client. He's like, well, I'm a leadership consultant. And I said, I've got a trucking podcast I think you would be great on. He goes, trucking industry, what? And I'm like, it's like, no, I want to be on a leadership podcast. I'm like, your clients aren't listening to leadership podcasts. Your clients are in the trucking industry and they are having leadership problems right now. So if you go on a leadership podcast, how unique of a voice or a message do you have in that room? Not very. Everyone says similar stuff to what you're saying. And so what you want to be is that unique voice. And then, it's like, oh, here comes John. John's our leadership guy. And it's like, now the trucking industry just recognizes you as one of those few voices that is just serving and helping those folks do better, overcome all of their organizational and people leadership issues. That's what you want. That's where you get the biggest, I'd say, bang for your buck in terms of guesting.
That's truly amazing. And it's something that I've thought about and looked at often, because you're 100% right. And it's that so many people go on to what's going to feed their ego. Where can I go on where someone's going to agree with me? And in so many cases, you make such a great point about it, is the fact that a guest and a host should not agree with absolutely everything. If one just sits here and nods the entire time, you're kind of like,
yeah, there's no conflict. There's no,
no.
Watch a movie with no conflict in it and see how you do. It's
right.
Like, okay, two dudes talking. I mean, podcasts are different, but again, when there's, at least, for me, as a host, when I'm like, wow, you are blowing my mind. And I'm like, I hadn't considered that. That's cool too.
Right. And that's where it's outside the purview. It's outside the normal. It's outside once again. And it's why I love what I get to do, I mean, you mentioned like people like Dave Jackson. There's so many different people from around
legend.
different areas that once again, it's getting that feedback from outside or the other areas. And from the guest perspective, yes, so many people don't think to look outside their normal area and to look outside of instead of talking to your peers, talk to the people with checkbooks.
Yeah.
That is the huge case for that. In that, you mentioned the podcasting industry kind of as a whole, and I want to address some of that. And one of the things, there's a channel that I unabashedly follow on Instagram, and it takes terrible quotes from podcasts. And what it shows is a guy at the engineering desk, and there's the terrible quote from the podcast, and it's the same clip of him every time, but he just rips all the cords out of the back of it, and he's like, podcasting equipment is too cheap.
What was it? Podcasting what?
Podcasting equipment is too cheap. He's like, we have lowered the bar.
Well, look, okay. Can I chime in on that? Because that is okay. So it is, and I'll tell people, like, especially like folks that are guesting and maybe they're using, and I don't want to name anybody here because there are some closed ecosystem services or platforms that you can use. And I think they're fantastic for brand new guests, brand new shows. And what I like about this is it is the democratization, right? Anyone can become a podcaster, just like anyone can throw some crap on YouTube or whatever. And listen, that's great. I mean, I guess that's what the internet's for. Now, what I love about that is it allows for lots of diversity of voices. So voices that may have otherwise been shut out of our media ecosystem can now, hey, we're just going to do it ourselves. God bless you for that. I think that's amazing. The negative of that, I think what you're, kind of getting to is, man, the experience varies wildly. And I can't tell you, I'm sure anyone who's been guesting for a while has been on some real stinkers, and that's fine. I mean, these folks are learning the ropes. They're probably not going to, I'm sure you've seen the numbers, like the percentage of people that, percentage of shows that don't make it to episode 20. It's close to 90%. Like it's pretty significant of independent podcasters. So it's a grind. And I think, a lot of people get excited by the idea, and then they realize, oh, wow, I launched this thing and nobody's listening. So am I going to keep doing this? And, on episode 1, 2, and 3, you're like, yeah, I'm going to keep on going. But then by episode 15, 16, 17, and still like very few people are listening, it's really hard for folks to stay motivated. So there is, kind of this natural attrition that does happen. But yeah, to your point, it's the Wild West.
I have an example that I always like making. I can talk, therefore I should have a podcast. Works the same way as I drove to the grocery store, therefore I should be an F1. It's so different, and it's one of those things where it is a skill, and I love the fact too, the same as you, that people can get into this, and there's all sorts of voices out there that wouldn't be heard that can have the potential to be heard. The problem is there's also all sorts of voices out there that maybe aren't the best to be heard, and hopefully they go by the wayside. In all that, like one thing that I'm really interested, because you're such a forward-looking guy on some of this stuff, what do you think over the next 12, 18, 24 months, what do you see in podcasting?
Well, so my background is that, when I wanted to start, so I had a number of companies that did okay to not okay, somewhere in there. It's like 6 failures or 6, eventually. It's like, well, those were good, rough starts, kind of figure out what it means to grow a business. But then my 7th business venture did pretty well, and I had no money for advertising, so I really just took to audiences and serving on radio, a lot of radio, and then I would take those radio segments and convert them into podcasts, and then they kind of naturally got discovered by Apple iTunes at the time, which I didn't even submit it. They just found it. It's really just grown from there to, you don't have to hand code your own RSS feeds anymore. So, I think that the market is likely going to set that natural governor on, content creators and they start it, and some are going to stick with it, some won't. But the biggest opportunity I see here, and I don't think that I can understate this heavily enough, is that if you look at generally, the caliber of leaders that participate in in the podcast world, and I'm speaking specifically about podcast hosts who do interviews and podcast guests who can learn the ropes, and they can serve audiences, and they kind of know what they're doing. They kind of have a little bit of a media brand here. Once you get to that level of competence, what you'll learn very quickly is that there is no better ecosystem on the planet for high-level B2B relationship building, for networking, dare I say, even for potential sales development, because of the caliber of folks that you get to collaborate with. So if I look back, through my roster of guests that I've had, that is a powerful network. And all of them I've built, tried to build, at least a little bit of a personal relationship while we serve together. So a great analogy is, for those who have spoken at events and conferences, and maybe you've been on a panel. So when you podcast guest regularly, or you host regularly, and one of your primary goals, which is, of the 300 shows that we've launched, it's really primarily to help our clients circulate with the right caliber of people week after week after week. And then they don't have to do lead gen anymore, which, gross. I'm not a fan. So think of it this way. Imagine, and I think, if you've done this, exactly what I'm talking about. You go to a conference, you're like, oh, I get to be on this panel, and I think I know the other panelists. And so then you show up, you got to meet the moderator, the audience starts coming in, you sit down, your other panelists are there as well. And so then all of you are engaged in service for the next 60 minutes or however long, right? So moderators doing their thing, the panelists are doing their thing, serving audiences. You overhear and see what your co-panelists are talking about. And then they hear and see what you're talking about. So you kind of get like, okay, so Josh is pretty legit. Jane is pretty legit. Jane knows what she's talking about, right? So what we've done in that moment is we've recognized leaders identifying other leaders in that moment, and leaders serve audiences. That's what they do. So when you are in that world week after week after week, you start to build relationships. And then if, by the way, let's say you were on a panel, I was on a panel with you, Josh. And then afterwards, I'm thinking, man, I should talk with Josh because, we're each kind of doing this thing, and maybe there's some collaboration opportunities for us. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I can hire Josh. I don't know. But at least I have enough curiosity that at the end of that panel presentation, if I leaned over to you and said, Josh, I really liked what you had to share. It seems like we share some things in common. We have some values in common. Hey, let's grab some time next week. I'd love to see if there's something we should be doing together. That's all I do day after day after day with my guests. And then I explore. I don't know if, they need what I offer. I, can kind of figure out if I need their help or I want to buy their book or whatever, but that's all I do for business. And the upside of this as well is I've also been 100% inbound as of November for 8 years straight. I don't do any advertising. I don't do any lead gen. And, we've built a pretty decent company. And I'm very grateful to do that. And it's because I took the time and I built the relationships day after day after day after day. It's not about followers. It's not about transactions. It's about human connection. Think of it this way. If you're a realtor in your local market and you have spent the time and truly invested the time to have a meaningful relationship with 200 centers of influence in your community, my friend, as a realtor, it is probably game, set, match for you if you got all the other business stuff locked down, meaning that you will probably get enough referral business and just other opportunities will fall in your lap because of who you know and who trusts you and who you have that intimate relationship with, as opposed to generic followers, which is kind of more of that bro marketing energy. Go deep. Go spend more time with fewer people, but you keep doing that day after day after day after day. You fast forward a year, and you will not recognize what your business looks like.
It's amazing, and I want to bring it back kind of to like the original question for that is where you see podcasting going, because that is. And no, sorry, you're good.
That's good. One of those answer the question you want, not the answer the question you're given.
No. It's good because, and I love it because.
Sorry, I kind of meandered.
You're totally good with that, because to me that really emphasizes the fact that good podcasts are built on relationships. They are Truly. Built on conversations. They are built on like that. I always joke, we had a podcaster the one time, she only recorded 2 episodes, thankfully, but came in and invited an expert into the studio. The first episode, they talked 86% of the time. The second episode, they talked 78% of the time. And I'm like, why did you even have the person in? There's no relationship. There's no, and once again, that was purely transactional. I want that person's name on my podcast, nothing else. And I was like, we're not doing this again.
No. So let me make sure I understand this. So they had a guest, and the guest was a get for them. And then they just started like, oh, I'm going to impress this guest by blabbing on in front of them.
Correct.
Oh,
right.
Yeah,
so
don't do that.
Once again, but it's one of the things that I love about podcasting is it is a relationship, and it is it's the same thing for me. Like people that I have had on the show, I have relationships with. There's an email that I'm going to send out in probably another 3-4 weeks. Hey, how's it going? Things that, yes. And there's 2 reasons for it. I don't do that to everyone. I do it to the ones that I'm genuinely curious about, because one of the things that I love too is I get to ask you some very intentional questions. If you and I met at that BNI meeting, we're going to, hey dude, and we're going to sound a little bit like I think it was the sheepdog and Wile E. Coyote in Looney Tunes. Morning Frank. Morning, Ralph. It'll be one of those things. Whereas now, like, I get to like intentionally ask you questions, which it automatically brings people closer.
Exactly. And and I want to add to that. There is something. So in college, so I was going to be a marriage and family therapist. That's actually what my wife does now. We were kind of in school together, kind of studying therapy and that sort of thing. I ended up going obviously a different road. I wanted to be a love doctor on the radio. That was my original career ambition.
I love it.
Anyway, one thing that I studied was kind of this idea of quality versus quantity time. And then I looked at, what can people do together that truly bonds them? And there is something that is so remarkable about 2 people coming together in service for something else, right? We are here together to serve. So like, really great relationships, I was able to build just by serving in my local community with my local SBDC chapter, serving on boards, serving on, workshops, mentors, mentoring, that sort of thing. But then you get to meet all of the other mentors. And man, I'm telling you what, that is quite a fraternity / sorority. Like that is like, we get along. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's like we, leaders who we recognize the hearts of other leaders, and that's so attractive. So if we have a heart towards service and somebody else has a heart towards service, it's like instant rapport. So there's another clue. If you're really looking to up-level your networking relationship building, just start serving more and you're going to get to know a lot of other people. It might feel inefficient at first, but then you'll see what happens regarding the quality of the relationships in your life with people that, listen, business owners usually just have a lot of things going on. And so there's a lot of ways that I collaborate and work with other people. Try me. I mean, just, if we build, like, we'll probably figure something out. So, and that's very, very common amongst business owners that have been around a little bit of time, have some things going on.
Yeah, it's funny. I see so many people, and I always like to call it the pitch slap. is, as you mentioned, the guy that's just walking around passing out business cards like he's dealing poker. Is that is the pitch slap? Yeah, and 100%. And it's, I always like to find, I always ask that for me, like networking events, I always try and ask a different question. And for me, I always ask people, what's something you're working on you're excited about? Because I want to find out what they're working on, not just like if you ask someone, what do you do? That's kind of self-serving. If you want to find out what they're excited about, well, then that's like, hey, I'm interested in you and what you do. That being said, with you and what you do, like if someone decides, hey, you know what, I need to get to the next level of guesting, I need to get my name out there. What does it take to work with PodVerified, and what can they expect?
Yeah. So here's how we're trying to fix the ecosystem for everybody. So number one, and we still have to call podcasters out. I still have a little bit more calling out I need to do because, again, I think a lot of this is, let me just touch on this really quick and then we can kind of move on. And I'm going to get to, I'm happy to share what we do with PodVerified. And by the way, I'll just say, right now, they're like everything we do at PodVerified, we have so much that we give away for free because I believe that as podcasters, we all work to better make this system better for everybody, and truly those who have the heart of a leader, those people who are like, man, I got into business because I want to make an impact in the world. Podcasts are a great stage for you to do that, but I need to help you into that world a little bit. So there's so many free resources there. But getting back to the issue that I see with podcasters, and I think a lot of people are going to nod their head, especially if they've done any level of guesting, are going to nod their head with me right now. And that is that, let's say that I want to be, let's say you're a podcaster, and I feel like I'm kind of at the level where, we would probably have a meaningful conversation. I feel like, I would probably be a very qualified guest for you. I'd bring a lot of value. Obviously, I'm focused on, what are the goals of the podcast host? I mean, that's my background in media. It's you always put, the host or the producer or the talent, you put their needs first, you serve them, make them look good, truly deliver, for their audience. And then you'll be invited back, which, that's how I got my 3,000 media appearances. It wasn't from 3,000 outlets. It was really just from a much smaller quantity over and over and over and over again. So here's what podcasters are doing, unfortunately. Nothing. When I go to your website, the average podcaster's website, I go to their website and I'm like, okay, well, I think, we actually might be a good fit here. I'm not punching above my weight class. It certainly seems like it'd be a good fit. And then I go, well, what is your guest process? And there's nothing. There's no explanation. There's no application. There's not even one paragraph that explains what to do. Right. So I got to say, to a lot of podcasters, I feel like your spam problem, you own a little bit of that, because what else are people supposed to do? You got to tell them what to do. So, the 300 shows that we've launched, I am really bullish on no email pitches. Great to have you. Everyone is welcome to apply. We have a very simple, kind of a, just initial form. Just who are you? What do you got going on? Let me standardize this so that we can research this. And that's kind of the first level of PodVerified, where I now, like if you go to, for example, if you go to my website, so if you go to www.podverified.com and then you click on podcast, so you can see exactly what I do. Please just do what I do. it is just going to make your life so much easier. Send all of that, put all of that spam on autoresponder. And in fact, by now you should also see a link that says for podcasters. Click on that. We've got a free tool, and we will actually potentially pay you to handle all of your guest spam. So what are we going to do? Well, you just put a little snippet of code on your site, and now you have a screening tool. And you say, hey, if you're interested in being a guest on the show, great, just fill this out. Now, what we're going to do, PodVerified is like Credit Karma for podcast guesting. So what we do,
I love that analogy. I saw that on the website. Yeah. Loved it.
But this is so important because it's also exceptionally confusing for guests who say, I want to be on a podcast. Well, I guess I just send a spam message to Joe Rogan and I'll be on, maybe, right? And that's not how it works, right? It's like in traditional public relations, I would get a client and they would say, hey, can you get me on Good Morning America? I'm like, yeah, maybe. Tell me about your national media that you've done already. I've done national media, like it's no big deal, right? But, tell me what you've done. Have you done national media? Oh, no, I haven't. Okay, well, what about your major market stuff? Well, I haven't done that either. I'm like, okay. That ain't how this works. And I need to just be very transparent with you. You need to earn your stages. Just like in public speaking, you don't go from, I'm a speaker, to tomorrow you get yourself a $20,000 gig. Nope. You're going to be doing a bunch of pro bono stuff at first. And then you're probably going to get your first paid gig. And then you're going to inch your way up. It's the exact same thing in media. Okay. Stop playing the lottery with your spam. It's not going to work. You're just ticking people off and it's sloppy, right?
Yes.
And by the way, to the guest who's done this, it's not your fault. No one taught you this, right? And unfortunately, a lot of marketers probably sold you on a different idea that you should do this. Nope. Podcasters hate it. So podcasters, step one, please put a screening form on your page. That's just, it's not going to take you very long. It is going to solve so many problems. And most importantly, is you are going to get better quality guests. Why? Because of the dozen or so pitches you get every day, there's a lot of bad ones in there. No question about it. But there are also some really great ones in there. And if you just market all as spam or you just ignore all that stuff, you are missing out on really high caliber guests that you should have on your show that would help you grow faster than whatever else your selection process is right now. We got to be a little bit more scientific about how we decide to select guests. So the PodVerified, what it will do is when somebody fills it out, we are going to scour the internet and we're going to build a profile based upon that person's credit worthiness, essentially. And again, this is going to sound very superficial, but unfortunately, we do have to use these metrics to determine at least the non-editorial value of a guest. And so here's what we look at: the professional success and authority of the guest. That is one bucket that helps us build this profile. Then we look at the overall influence and engagement of that guest already. Now, we weight that one a little higher than I think should be. And the reason why is because podcasters do. Because most podcasters are looking to expand their influence and reach. It's one of their primary goals.
Sure.
If not number one, for the average podcaster. So they're going to evaluate you as a guest. So we just grab all that for them. And then finally, number three is, what kind of performance have you had on podcasts already? So that's where we're going to look at your podcast history. We're going to look at also, and this is important because guess what? Podcasters are going to look at this as well, is when you do appear on a podcast, is there evidence that you collaborate and promote those appearances? Because if you don't, that is a major red flag for nearly every podcast host. Why would you come on my stage and have this great, you're happy to serve my audience, that's great, but why would you not just do that little extra to promote your appearance? Again, it's a rookie move. Don't do that. So unfortunately, that is, that's a portion of that score as well. So then we give that score to the podcast host and they're like, great, I'm booking, 35s and above, right? So that's, and again, that's, again, you just go to PodVerified and I'll teach you how to do that for free. If you want to use our tool, just hit me up right now. If you hurry, I will probably give it to you for free. Because I got to sell it. But right now I'm doing, I'm kind of validating, we're testing the process, testing the software and stuff. But yeah, happy to give it away for free if you hurry and just check it out. Just message me on the website. And again, that's at podverified.com. Okay. Now, on the guesting side of things, this also solves a major problem because, when I was talking about, I want to be on Joe Rogan, I want to be on Mel Robbins or whatever. I'm sorry, you're not ready for that. But you know what? You're coming in at a 40. So you should be aiming for shows that are around that level, because if you punch too high, you're not going to get any response. Okay, stop with the lottery mentality. It just doesn't work like that. Also, the vast majority of the shows, you will probably find that you could do better. You know, if you're Def Leppard in your prime, stop playing dive bars, right? And so there's nothing wrong. There's
What
nothing
an
wrong with
example.
dive bars.
What an
we
example.
need dive bars. Just like we need new podcasters. But that said, you should be playing the venues that are appropriate for your level of media, because that's probably the fastest way for you to escalate up. You have to earn stages, and then you go 1 point above, right? So you keep earning those stages 1 point at a time. You don't go from, hey, you're a 20, so now you're going to get on some 80 stages. You can buy your way there in some cases, but generally it's really challenging, really hard to do. I would much rather be on, a dozen, if I'm a 40, I'd much rather be on a dozen shows that are 40s as well, because that's the right room for me. And then, in a couple of weeks, I'll be a 41. So, just that's how you do it. And PodVerified, like I said, we give away all kinds of free tools, do media training and that sort of thing, because all of this stuff, again, is going to help you to become much more successful. You're going to make a lot more money. You're going to grow your audience a lot faster. Oh, I'm so sorry. I probably shouldn't keep
go ahead.
Throwing everything in the kitchen sink into this conversation.
Go right ahead.
I'm violating so many of my own rules that I'm talking about. But I do want to say this, because I want, because I don't often get to speak to podcasters specifically. Here is probably this is okay. Spam is a big problem. Spam is a really big problem. Another problem that we as podcasters have is guests that are not fully engaged in the process, particularly as evidenced by the amount of emphasis they put on promoting that appearance, right? So we get really frustrated as podcasters when the guest just doesn't participate. Okay, there's a lot of ways you can fix that. And over the years, in 2,500 appearances, I've had to learn to fix that. And I'm going to tell you right now, number one is you need to start treating your show like a serious media outlet. Your guests are never going to treat your show more seriously than you do. So all of this little ad hoc stuff where you're like, go back and forth on email and DM or whatever, then you just give them a schedule link and you're like, okay, we'll chat in a month. And then that's it. And then you just kind of show up and your guest kind of like, well, I don't know anything about you, so I'm just going to kind of phone it in. Okay, that is a huge missed opportunity.
Agreed.
And so what you should be doing is rolling out the red carpet for your guests. So another thing, you'll see that what we do, with our show, and I encourage every podcaster to do this. If you want to do pre-interview conversations, that's up to you. I don't, but I've systematized. I just don't have the bandwidth with the Daily Show. I wish I could. But what I do is I just provide so many resources for my guests, and I do it really easy. They can totally do it. Most guests are a little bit nervous. Most guests want to do a good job. So if I were to, let's say I was going to speak at an event, and then the meeting planner goes, hey, before we have you on stage in a couple of weeks, why don't we grab 15 minutes really quick, just so I can kind of go over who's going to be in the audience, what kind of questions they're asking, that sort of thing. Like every speaker on the planet would take that meeting. Okay. So the same thing happens with media guests. Most guests, if you offer to be helpful and you give them really quick resources, right? And just like, here's the question I'm going to ask. Here's how the format goes. Here's some. I share like a video. It's like, hey, here's some quick audio video tips. And I share that with I get so much positive feedback from my guests. They're like, oh my gosh, boy, talk about dumbing it down and helping me to become more successful. Thank you so much. Now, as a result, they have now built familiarity bias with me. Meaning they feel like they now know me because they've spent all that time getting to watch my videos when I'm prepping them so that they can do a good job, because they want to look good in front of my audience. They want to look good in front of me. They want to look good in front of their shareholders, their teams, their customers, that sort of thing. So I want to help them do that. That's all I care about in the pre-interview rolling out the red carpet. But again, that's another thing that podcasters, and by the way, if you're a podcaster, I'll teach you how to do all this stuff for free. It's all part of what we give away at PodVerified. Happy happy to serve. Again, if we don't all take action, it's only going to get worse. It's the I'm not going to say the word essification of podcast guesting.
Yeah, no, it's the shitification. I will say the word.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the it really is, because the bar, like I mentioned, the bar has been lowered enough that it becomes difficult to shine in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's already a bunch of AI slop podcasts that are coming out, which is like so ridiculous. It's so stupid. Like, yes, I'm sure there's going to be some people that are listening to. Most people listen because they want to hear from humans, and you're seeing enormous consumer pushback right now. Like on YouTube, I just, sometimes maybe like for the fall asleep podcast, I'll listen to like AI produced stuff. But if I can tell it's AI and they go, in the year 1987, I'm like, okay, AI, like I'm so out of there. Like AI, I use like son of a gun, but not for my content. Like it just feels yucky. Like to me,
it's so funny. I just had this talk with someone the other day about it, because they're talking about like they're worried about AI content and marketing in an organization that and I'm like, no. I'm like, to use AI in the marketing is amazing, but it's human in the loop AI. It's not like if you just let AI do its own things. Yes, it is horribleness. If it assists humans and makes humans do things better or more efficient, then, oh my gosh, is it an amazing tool.
Nailed it, Josh. You nailed it.
Yeah, it's truly how we work with that. With that, the conversation today has been amazing. I feel like too, in some ways, I want to hook a set of jumper cables up to you, because I feel like you could power my house for a fair bit of time.
Well, look, what I'm excited about is I think that this is very fixable. I think it's really fixable. I think all it requires is all of us to do just a little bit better. Like just do if we all improve the, kind of the ecosystem by 1-2%, boom, done, gone. And the marketers will just not survive. I mean, already their churn rate with their clients, like I've heard some stories. I mean, I talk to all their clients too, because, a lot of times they end up on my show. So, and I'm very respectful. I'm like, listen, I always honor great, public relations, relationships and stuff. But when they're working with a true kind of shyster, I'm like, oof, man. And I've, other folks in the podcast guesting world too. Those folks, the good news is those folks don't last, just like the broy guests don't really last either. They're wonderful people. They're just in the wrong venue.
I wholeheartedly agree. That all being said, where can people find you? Obviously, PodVerified.com, but where else?
Yeah. So when you go to PodVerified.com, if you want to get a free PodVerified score, that'll help you. Then I'm going to share with you using AI tools how to build a press kit. Again, if you're a speaker without a speaker kit, you're not getting speaking gigs. If you are a podcast guest without a press kit, you just look like you're not ready for prime time. You have to do this. Otherwise, content creators like myself, we're just going to have to guess. Don't make me guess as to whether or not you're a good guest. Tell me, just give me the resources. Don't sell me with a big glossy thing. I don't need that. Just give me the facts and figures. Just give me the resources and tools that I need so we can do something awesome together. My team has everything they need. Press Kit Builder, LinkedIn Makeover Tool. I even have a website blueprint tool so you can look like you're just a little bit more media ready. All that stuff's free. I just give it away. It's for free. Certainly if I can help you in other ways, always happy to help. But that's it. And the last thing, I'm always looking for great podcast guests as well. When you go to podverified.com, you'll see my own podcast, and you'll see the application I was talking about. Go fill it out, and you'll get a free PodVerified membership anyway too. So awesome, Josh. Thank you so much for having me, man. This was so great.
This truly was. I truly appreciate the time today. For everyone else out there, I know some of you may have seen me typing throughout this. I got notes. I will be back to finish those up. Once again, thanks, Josh. For everyone else, I'll be right back. For today's summary, I don't even know where to start. There's a couple of things. One is what we always talk about: serve your host all the time. If you're a guest, serve your host. If you're a host, serve your audience, provide value to them. Once again, no one cares unless you are providing value to them. That is the biggest thing. The other thing that it's a point that so many of us often miss, and it's one that I even sometimes miss myself if I don't pay attention to it. Go to where your clients are. Don't necessarily go to where you're comfortable. And that to me is a really big issue, because in that, like, I see it in so many cases where people just go where they're going to hear that echo chamber. They're going to go where they're going to hear this constant, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's the right thing. Like, no, don't necessarily go there. Go to the places where people, like, you want to find the people. Go to those places. Be intentional about it. Once again, this is one of those things where it takes that intention to think about it. It's not just the automatic thing that you're going for. The other one is a point that I see all the time. You're not going to start out in the big leagues. Like, you start out playing t-ball, then you play baseball, then you may play hot stove or whatever it is, then you may play high school ball, then you may play college ball, then you got a chance to make it to the big leagues. Don't be knocking the ball off the tee thinking, hey, I am the next Babe Ruth. That's not the case. Start with the shows that fit with where you're at. And I love his example of it. If you're a 40, you can probably get on a 41 or a 42. It's very much like the rules of dating almost. We always joke about the rule of dating. You'll see an 8 with a 6, but you typically don't see an 8 with a 2. Same ideas when it comes to podcasting. Punch around your weight class. The screening form, I absolutely love. It's something that we need to get better at. It's something that I'm encouraging others to get better at. Like, if you're having guests on, make sure that they are good, high quality guests. Make sure that they are ones that are aimed at your show. Too often we're finding the guests that are just there and available instead of the ones that are actually helping to move things forward. I mean, scour the internet for them. Look at their professional success. Look at, like, do they collaborate on stuff? That is a huge one. Find people that are going to give you that value. Like, once again, it's all about that exchange of value, and make sure that you're doing that fairly. One of the last things that Josh talked about, that I really found interesting, and I really think more people need to do something with this, is some form of PR training. I see it all the time where people think PR training is just how to be comfortable in front of a camera. It's not. It's how to know the right things to say. It's how to address a camera. It's how to address a guest. It's how to address questions. It's how to be thoughtful in those things. It's not just speak into this can. That's not the case at all. There's a ton of great free resources out there for PR training. And to me, that's one of the things that would be a big, huge investment for so many people in terms of podcasting. Learn how to properly do the things, and you'll get so much further ahead. I guess I would say it's kind of like learning how to ride a bike. Most of us had someone help us learn how to ride a bike. We just didn't go out and start pedaling down the street. Get someone to help you learn how to ride the bike, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you gain some really big skills. You'll learn the 80% in the first 6-8 months. It's after that is that you get incrementally better, and that's where the differences are. That all being said, I really appreciate you coming along for the ride this week. I mean, Josh was a great guest. Obviously, he's got a ton of experience with it. He's given me something to shoot for when I'm a guest on other podcasts, and hopefully he has done the same for you. As always, do me a favor, take care of yourself. If you can, take care of someone else too. I will see you very, very soon.
Creating engaging content can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. That's why I'm excited to share our Stomping Podcasting newsletter. You'll get actionable insights and expert tips straight to your inbox. These are to help you maximize your video marketing and podcasting return on investment. Head over to the show notes and click the link to subscribe to our free newsletter. Don't miss out on this opportunity to become a video marketing and podcasting pro.